Hi, my name is Mark Rosewater. I'm the head designer for Magic, and I was on the vision design team for Duskmourn.
So, I first want to ask, where did the idea for this set come from?
Well, one of the things we try to do is we like to stretch boundaries. A couple years ago, we did a set called Kamigawa Neon Dynasty that kind of pushed a little more into the future. And so we were playing around with the idea of, could we do something that's a little more futuristic? And we like the idea of marrying that to horror. And so we really got inspired by kind of like the 80s and the more modern horror. We had done Innistrad that was like gothic horror. We had done New Phyrexia that was kind of like an alien horror. It was something new we hadn't done before. And so we were excited to just push in new areas and try something different.
So once you have the aesthetic, what comes next? Like when you start designing new mechanics or bringing back old mechanics or deciding what the theme's going to be from a gameplay mechanic standpoint?
So one of the big things is we've done horror before in Magic. Innistrad doing gothic horror was one of the big ones. So we really wanted to stay off what we'd done before and give something new, like really carve its own mechanical space. So one of the things we realized early is that the source material was very big on mood and tone. That a lot of times in sort of modern horror, you don't actually see the monster for a while, that there's a lot of sort of creepiness that happens. And so we said, okay, what in Magic captures the sense of mood and tone? And the answer was enchantment. We've done a lot with artifacts in different sets. We haven't made a lot of sets based around enchantments. We've done a few, but it's something we haven't done as much. And we thought that this would be a great place, that the marrying of the mood and tone of modern horror and enchantments seemed like a perfect fit.
You guys are also introducing Rooms, which is a new card too, and those work with enchantments, and talk about how all this was kind of premeditated by design almost.
Yeah, so basically the idea was we wanted to have an enchantment theme. We have a mechanic in the set called Eerie that cares about you playing enchantments, and so we decided we wanted to capture we knew we wanted the idea of rooms. Like you're trapped, the world is this entire plane that's inside of an ever-expanding haunted house. So we liked the idea of capturing rooms. We realized that we had an enchantment theme, so we decided to make a brand new subtype, which is room. And the way rooms work is they're side by side. They look kind of like split cards, except it's a permanent. You can play either side, and that comes onto the battlefield. The other side is locked, but when you play the cost of the other side, you unlock it, and then its effect happens. And so it was a really cool way to sort of bring something that was new, but tying into things that were old in a way that really matched the creepiness of the environment.
Do you guys start with pen and paper still and work up from that?
Well, I mean, mostly what happens is we'll go in a room, we'll have a whiteboard, and we'll have our laptops and stuff. But it really is just, the way this set works, this is what we call top-down, which is we started by saying, hey, we want to capture this mood and tone. And then very early on, we realized we wanted to have enchantments be a component. And then a lot of the set was built on figuring out how to make enchantments work. So it definitely was a set where we started with a lot of flavor, really soon got a mechanical implementation, and then spent a lot of time building off that mechanical implementation.
You guys have a lot of different ways to play Magic on top of having multiple sets that people still play in Modern and Standard and such. As a designer, do you have to look at that as a whole and say, okay, this is for Commander players, this is for Standard players, this is for Tiny Commander players? Like, does that go into your design when you're making these cards?
Well, basically when you make a set, we make a lot of cards. Every set has a lot of cards. And the idea is every card is for somebody. And ideally every card, we want different cards for different people. We don't need every card in the set being for the exact same player. And so we really allocate and say, what are these cards that are more for limited? What are more for standard? What are more for commander? What are more for modern? Like, we think of all the different formats people play. And some of the cards have dual purposes. Not every card is just for one particular format. Sometimes cards are just doing universal things. But we do think about making sure that all the different formats, at least the ones that get played the most, there's representation in the set.
What do you think is the biggest misconception from an outsider looking at your job as a designer in Magic the Gathering?
The biggest misconception? Well, whenever I introduce myself and say what I do, A, people think I make video games, and B, even when they understand it's a card game, they're like, so you draw the cards? Yeah, I have to explain to them, like, not the art part, like, I make the game part of it, and normally then I can explain it, but that's the most common misconception.
Is there any card in this set, Duskmourn, that you think is going to come in and like really shape the game of, let's say, Commander, for example? Is there a legendary creature that's really going to like change the meta?
One of the things we did is there's a bunch of characters in the house that represent the main characters in the story. Each one of those characters gets a card. The main bad guy, Vagaroth, gets a card, and he has a very creepy card. It's 9/9 flying lifelinker that is really hard to kill, and I think that card definitely will be a lot of fun. But one of the things we do, and there's commander decks that come with it, so there's 4 different commander decks that each play in different styles. One of what we call a group slug deck, which is the bad guy, and instead, normally in a group hug deck, you reward everybody, make everybody want to be your friend. In a group slug deck, you hurt everybody and make nobody want to be your friend. So.
Magic has withstood the test of time over 30 years. What do you think it is about the game that has it lasted so long and remained popular all these years?
I mean, I think the best thing that Magic is going for it is it's a really, really fun game. In my personal opinion, the best game ever made. And then I think one of the things that we do is we constantly shift what we're doing. The last set we did was about cute creatures in Bloomburrow. This set is not that. This is a nod to all the horror, sort of modern horror. So no matter what you like in Magic, we do different things, and you can find the thing you love. Last year we did Lord of the Rings, and earlier in the year we did a Western, and so there's lots of different things that you can do, and whatever you enjoy about Magic, Magic can find the thing that you enjoy, and you can make decks around that.
Talked about how there's so many ways to play this game now on Pauper and all these other odd formats. As a designer, is it tough to kind of hit all those boxes to make sure there's a card for every kind of format that someone will be happy with? Because there's a lot of Magic players that tend to just focus on the mode they play and nothing else. If they just play Commander, if they just play Standard, right? That's the only thing they focus on. But there's other ways to play.
Yeah, I mean, we're very conscious of the many different ways to play, and we do a lot of very universal, like, Magic is what we call a modular game, that you play cards with other cards, they click in, and when we design sets, we design them so they're very open-ended, so there's a lot of clickiness and things that can happen. And so even if we don't design for a particular mechanic, because there's lots of ways to play Magic, we design for all the major ways to play, but there's lots of, every day someone new is making another format, so a lot of the open-ended cards really allow you to adapt them, even if we don't specifically know the format, they adapt well to different formats.
As a designer, after you have the aesthetic down, do you start with the story and then the gameplay design, or do you kind of work in tandem with the story and design of the cards together at the same time?
Usually what happens is the world gets built first, and then we have rough outlines of the story, but we make the set before the story gets finalized, because the story kind of likes to see what the set is before they finalize the story to make sure that they're playing up aspects that are showing up in the card set. So it's sort of like build the world, build the set, build the story.
Printing technology has changed tremendously over the last 30 years. You guys do so many cool things with cards, foils, borders, it's like the sheen of the stuff that you're doing in this set. Like, what's been the biggest jump for you working in this game for so long from a printing aspect and what you can do, make the cards look aesthetic-wise?
Well, one of the neat things, we started this thing called Booster Fun a couple years ago, which says, hey, there's the normal Magic card. For a long time in Magic, there was the normal Magic card and then there was the foil version of it. And there's those two things. And what we started saying is, hey, we're a collectible game. You know what collectible cards do really well? Have lots of different versions of them. And that, the game is about expression if you want to express yourself. So we started doing Secret Lairs, we started doing Booster Fun. There's just lots and lots of ways for us to make cards. And so now, if you like a particular card, quite often there's other versions of it, and you can track down the one that really speaks to you. And so we have a whole team that's dedicated to making new frames and doing new art. And so every set now, we take some of our most popular cards in that set and we do multiple versions of it. And we've been really testing ourselves to see what kind of things we can do. We're pushing boundaries in the kind of treatments we do, in the kind of frames we do, in the kind of art we do. And so no matter what you like, hopefully there's something there that'll speak to you.
Paint a perspective for our viewers. If you have an idea for a card, how long does that idea take to create, print, and get in a player's hand, like roughly?
Well, probably from the very beginning of, like, for example, I work on the very beginning part of it. The very first thing we do is called exploratory design. So the gap between me starting on an exploratory design team and the cards being in players' hands is about 2.5 to 3 years. So it's a while.
Why so long? It's a long time.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of, like, just making Magic cards. I'll work on exploratory design for 2 to 3 months. Then I also work on vision design, which is 4 months. Then we do set design, which is anywhere, usually about up to 18 months, but it varies. And then there's play design, and some of that overlaps, but that's, I think, 3 months. So there's and then once R&D is done making the set, then we have to print the set. So it has to go to graphic design, they have to lay it out, and then we have to physically print it, and we have to ship it. So there's a lot of process to making it. So it just takes a long time to make Magic. And the other big thing that's really important is, look, Magic is a premier game. We spend a lot of time on it because we want it to be the best that it can be. And look, we have top notch. We have some of the best game design people in the world. And so we want to make sure we're spending the time to make it the quality it needs to be.
Your Universes Beyond sets have done extraordinarily well. Like, what's it been like seeing that response as you continue to do more and more different IPs that are integrated into the Magic department?
Well, one of the coolest things, we think Magic is the greatest game ever, right? It's just the game system Magic is super fun. And so what Universes Beyond is doing is saying, hey, there's a lot of people out there that love other things. What if we take those cool things and bring them to Magic? Are you a fan of Lord of the Rings? Well, now you can play Magic with Lord of the Rings. Do you like Doctor Who? Do you like Fallout? you know, and we've done lots of different things, and we're doing a lot more. You know, we've announced Marvel, we've announced a lot of different things that are coming, and that, you know, we want you to, if you love something and have not tried Magic, but have always been interested in Magic, maybe the thing you love coming to Magic can be the thing that makes you finally try Magic and realize what a fun game it is.
You know, at this point, since it's been had such a great reception, are people now banging on your door to get their cards made in the universes beyond?
Well, it's very interesting. Early on, we had to go to people, and, you know, we have a whole team that does that. But yes, as we become more popular, our team starts having people ask them. And one of the cool things, I mean, I can't announce things we haven't announced, but it is amazing. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff lined up. It really is exciting to see all the stuff that is coming. And we've announced some of the universes beyond, and those are amazing. And we haven't announced yet, and those are also amazing. So there's just lots and lots of cool stuff coming.
And then my last question, just as a fun question, you know, you've been playing card games for 30 years.
Yeah.
What's a card game that had failed that you really wanted to see keep going in this lifetime?
There was a game that Richard Garfield made early in Magic called Netrunner. That was a really interesting game. The way it worked is there were two different sides. So depending on, and so if I played one side, then the person had to play the other side. And so there were two different decks, and it was just really, really neat. It had this like cyber hacking sort of theme to it. But it was a great game, and I'm sad that it didn't make it. But it really was a fun game.